This meeting is being recorded.
We're gonna go ahead and get started in about 2 minutes. I usually start about 2 minutes after the hour. We're gonna record this. I'm gonna send out a copy to everyone. Stay till the end. We have a special offer for everyone that's joining today. We had about 50 people register. 45 actually, 45 people register. And a great group today. One of the things that I did, I actually enriched all of the registration so I could see industry and what software everyone's using. So have a little bit of context here, so that's good. But we're super excited about this. All right, we have a good turnout today so far. All right, and we also have the chat. So I want to use the chat to for everyone to engage with us, so we have context on everyone. So before we get started, if everyone can put into the chat industry, number of techs, and the software that you use to manage your jobs, okay? Whether it's Service Titan, House Call Pro, Service Fusion, Jobber, whatever it is. So put into, and your location. Sorry, your location I think is cool. So industry, number of techs, software, location. HVAC, 12 techs, Tampa, Florida, something else. Industry, number of techs, software, location is what we're gonna do. Cool. Nick, electrical, 2 techs, Jobber. We have a beautiful Jobber integration. Amber, exteriors. Come on, Amber. Number of techs, location, software. We need it all. We need it all. Michigan, 6 techs, Job Nimbus. Okay, cool. Job Nimbus. I just got back. I was at a conference yesterday and the day before. I did a keynote speech on ShareWillow about how to use incentives to increase most of your KPIs. And it went really well. I'm going to publish that on a bunch of our socials as well. Still have a bunch of people funneling in here. So again, everyone in here, almost 20 people. Industry, number of techs, software, and location. If everyone can drop that into the chat right here, then we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to get started. Again, I'm going to be taking notes and sending it out to everyone. Hopefully, we can all learn something in here as well. And hopefully you guys get some value. So, yep. So one of the things, again, just waiting for a few more people to drop in: industry, number of techs, location, software used. Colorado, let's go. Cool. West Houston Electric, Kevin. All right, cool. All right, so we got about 20 people in here. Amazing. It's typically what we get. We'll get so we had 45 people register, and usually we get half that actually show up, which I think are decent numbers. And these webinars have been pretty good for us. I think a lot of people will come to them. It's sort of like not as, it's not like a pitch or anything. Hopefully you can just learn and get value. So we're here, we're talking to customers every single day in the trades, and I'm learning a ton. And I want to use these to share with you guys some stories that we're hearing. And then also just, today's webinar is why most contractor bonus plans fail. And I think a lot of people come to us because they're like, look, I got to do something. I got to get away from just the hourly pay. I'm doing these random one-off bonuses. They don't seem to be working. They don't seem to be actually driving performance. And what we've figured out is how to actually do that. So I want to go over a few of those things today and show you, just like what's working. Hopefully you can pick up a few things. And look, whether you work with us or do it on your own manually, I think it's fine too. So let's dive in. I'm going to share my screen and let's do it. Cool. So look, most contractor bonus plans fail. Here's how to fix it. Here's what we're finding actually works. And I'm going to tell you a few stories, right? So hold on, we have a bunch of people funneling in. Let's go. All right, guys. So if you're wow, Um, all right, we're up to 25. Let's go. So if you're new if you just arrived, put in your industry, number of techs, your location, and the software that you use. If you don't use software, just say you don't use software. So industry, number of techs, location, software. That's what we're looking for in the chat right now. And we're going to keep diving in. I have Ash from my team, head of marketing. He's going to be answering questions in the chat so you can ask them in real time. And he'll be letting people in that kind of funnel in late. But if you haven't yet, industry, number of tech, software, location, let's go. I'm going to tell you a story. We actually did a webinar recently, and a plumbing company, and he was saying when he switched to ShareWillow, he increased average ticket from 800 to 1,800 in 2 months after going live with us. His guys were going in, they were like, seeing other problems that they were able to help with, and they're able to increase average ticket size pretty substantially. I'm Ryan. I'm the founder of ShareWillow. I've been working with companies in the trades for almost 15 years. First company was a field service software company called Help Desk. We got acquired by HomeAdvisor. Then I started a call tracking analytics company, got acquired by CallRail. And the biggest common theme wasn't, hey, I need more leads. And it wasn't, marketing and funnels. It was like, how do I find great people that are motivated, that are incentivized to do the work? It feels like, they would get leads that were coming in and they weren't able to actually service those leads properly. So I created this platform about 3 years ago, and we're seeing, it's starting to work and it's really working. We're seeing a ton of success now from people that implement this framework. Okay, so if you want to book an audit, by the way, this is a QR code. Just scan it, book an audit. We can literally ingest your data from whatever software you're using, show you the big sort of opportunities, right? Like if you have some techs that are crushing and then a bunch of techs that aren't, hey, we'll show you how to create incentives to move those techs up to the top techs. So anyway, we'll do an audit for you. We'll show you opportunities, and we'll just give you the audit as well, right, for free. And then this QR code is in the bottom right of the entire presentation today. So here's the problem. It's not you. It's a broken plan, right? So bonuses, spiffs, Christmas checks, quarterly pools, right? If it's a profit share pool, none of these things work on a day-to-day basis. You need performance-based incentives so that every single job, the techs know what they're going to do. I talked to a couple guys recently, and they're like, our guys just want to run up the hours, right? They just want to run up the hours because that's how they get paid. And when the guys get paid on hours, that's kind of misaligned with how you get paid. You don't get paid if you just take longer on the job. So what we do is we create these performance pay plans that align every single person. Here's the top reasons that bonus plans fail. If it's random, right? So if it's random and, they aren't actually tied to performance, hey, here's a Christmas bonus check. That didn't actually incentivize the behavior. It's kind of this found money that happens at the end. Another thing, if it's too complicated, right? If there's like all these different spiffs, sometimes we'll get companies that come to us and they're like, well, if they sell an air quality thing, they get an extra 50. If they do this, they'll get this. And it's like there's too many different factors. We want them to sell a membership. We want them to do the job in a certain amount of time. When there's too many KPIs, the employees can't focus on what they need to do. So what we do is we figure out what are these 3 to 4 needle moving metrics that matter to your business, where it's like if you can get them focused on those things, that's going to give the customer a better experience, right? It's going to make your job way better. It's going to, the jobs are going to get done faster, better, and all of that. So the other reason bonus plans fail, if it's outside of their control, a lot of times the techs can't control bottom line, right? Maybe they can control top line. Maybe your project managers can control bottom line. So you create a plan for project managers, right? But if it's out of their control, if it's a company-wide just profit share, it's too detached from the day-to-day performance metrics that the actual techs can control. Another reason bonus plans fail, and we hear this all the time, if there's no guardrails, right? If you're like, hey, I want the jobs to get done faster, then they might speed through the jobs and do a bad job. So you have to, and quality will tank. You want the quality to be good. You don't want any callbacks, right? You want the customers to be happy. The customers don't want to have to call you to send someone out to fix it a second time, right? They want it done right the first time. right? So that's another reason bonus plans fail. And then the fifth one is if it's a bad rollout, right? So it's a surprise. They feel like, oh my God, you're taking money away from me. You want the rollout to be well received, well understood, and you want everyone to be bought in, right? So I'm going to show you in the next slide how we fix this, right? The flawless install framework, shadow payroll. And I'm going to explain what that means in just a second. So, what does a plan that works actually look like? And by the way, before I go into this, can everyone put into the chat if what are you doing today? Are you doing some type of incentives? Are you doing annual bonuses? Are you doing performance pay? Are you doing commission? Or are you doing nothing, which is also fine if you're doing just hourly. So put into the chat if you're doing hourly, if you're doing some bonuses, put what you're doing right now into the chat so that I can see, sort of like lay of the land of what's happening today. Hourly for text, PMs get commission, percent of invoice jobs. Yep, a lot of people are doing that. Hourly. And by the way, a lot of our customers are doing a percentage of job, and a lot of times it's split out by sold by and completed by, because not everyone has selling techs, right? You might have your salesperson that might get incentivized on commission for the sales, and then some people get a percentage of the completed by, the revenue of the job that they complete. And if they do both, they can get both of those, right? So what does a plan look like that works? So the 5 reasons they fail, which we just discussed, right, on this slide: random, too complicated, outside of their control, no guardrails, bad rollout. Here's what it actually looks like that works. So a predictable cadence. Our best customers run incentives every single week. It's calculated, and by the way, we calculate it automatically, but it's every single week as a key component to their comp, right? So as you're calculating hours and overtime, you're also calculating the incentives and you're getting them their final pay. So when there's a predictable cadence, every job, every single week, it's not a surprise, but this is when the behavior changes because the reward is tied to the behavior almost in real time, right? And it has to be dead simple. A tech needs to explain to their friend. Think about it. Like when you tell them how they get paid, they need to tell their friend how they get paid, right? Because a lot of these guys talk and everyone's kind of all chirping who gets paid what around town and all of that, right? So it needs to be easily explained and dead simple. And then it has to be within their control. So one of the things that we found is that, when it's tied to what they personally sell and install, not a rolled up team view, because then it's like, when there's like a class project and someone does all the work and some people hold it down, like you get resentment, right? And we hear that all the time. Like top techs, A players want to work with A players. So top techs don't want to work with techs that potentially hold them down, especially if it's a shared bonus pool, right? So it has to be within their control. And then the fourth thing is guardrails on quality, because this is such a huge factor, right? You have to have either a deduction or a clawback or something for callbacks or go backs or whatever you want to call it, warranty work, and first time fixes if that's possible, right? Some jobs require multi stages, multi steps, right? But there has to be guardrails on quality, because that's what makes this whole thing work without people speeding through or without people selling customers things that they don't need, right? You want it to be a win-win for everyone. And then it has to be rolled out the right way through shadow payroll, which I'll talk about, where you basically run this in the background, but show them what they would have made if we had switched to incentive pay instead of their hourly. Get them excited about it, right? So techs can see the math weeks before it goes live. They can see exactly what it would have looked like, and they're like, I want to be in on that. There's no surprises. There's full transparency. And then there's no like revolt, right, of the technician. So when you do all 5 of these combined, mixed with real time, the data, visibility, that's when you see all of your metrics improve. And that's when you see, tech morale go up, right? So a plan simple enough to explain in one breath is essentially sort of, what we're looking to do is the North Star, right? If you earn 10% of what you sell and 10% of what you install, right? 20% total is going to go towards, performance, all in, then that keeps your labor rate also at 20%, right? If it's pure performance pay. So, that could be the lion's share of this, right? Then there could be spiffs and stuff on top of it. but it has to be just simple enough, right? Or just labor efficiency. If we know, an install or a repair job for this job type should take 2.5 hours, right? And if it takes them 4 hours, they're deducted or they don't get it, right? But if it takes them an hour and a half, that's great as long as, there's quality. So you want it to be super simple where they know like what they're focused on every single job. One page, one formula, one source of truth. And that's why data is so important here. And, at ShareWillow, we actually won't work with companies that don't have clean data, and we'll clean it up for you and help you get it. But you have to have the data getting tracked somewhere because the data feeding in is one of the key components here. And that's why I asked you about, what software you're using now, because a lot of these metrics, you need to be able to feed the data in. And we've built, APIs and we have AI agents that go and we normalize the data, right? And we kind of make it clean and easy to digest, especially for the techs. One of the things that I always talk about is quality, right? Speed without quality is expensive because you're just checking off the box that you did the job. I actually interviewed a garage door installer. He works for A1 Garage Door, which is Tommy Mello's company. I don't know if you guys have heard of Tommy Mello, but they're pure performance pay. Okay. And I talked to this guy and he said he previously worked at a company and it was just hourly. And he felt that he didn't really have an upside. He would go in, he would see his list of jobs for the day, and he would just kind of bang out the jobs. Didn't care that much, right? He just kind of went and did the job. Now that he works for A1 and they have pure performance pay, one, he's competitive with his peers. So they have a leaderboard that they can all see what's happening. They chirp each other, and it's fun. I think a lot of the best techs these days are, especially the A players, they're competitive. I'm going to talk about a guy, Max, in a second, right? Max is this 19-year-old kid. He was a wrestler. He has cauliflower ear, and he's in a pure performance pay plan, and he's competitive. And everyone around him, he lifts everyone up, right? So you want those kinds of people in this, and that gives them a framework to do the job and to do what matters, right? And speaking of that, again, quality. Like you don't want them to just be rushing through the job. So there could be a bonus for a perfect install or a perfect repair, right? Where there's no callback in 30 days, there's a 5-star review, and maybe if there's like a checklist or some type of like quality sort of assurance at the end, it passes it, right? If there's an inspection or something. So there's like this notion of like this perfect install, perfect repair. There could be a bonus for that. The callback guardrail, if they get a callback, deduction, right? Or if their callback percentage is less than 2%, they get the full amount. If it's over it, they get a deduction, right? Top tier monthly bonuses they're held back until the lead maintains 90% or even 95%, sort of like flawless install, right? So this is how you kind of layer in quality, because I do hear objections sometimes. It's like, I don't want the guy speeding through it and all of that. And this sort of like counters that as a guardrail. And I think it's super important. And then the next thing, and this is probably the most important, is the data that the techs can trust. So it can't just be a surprise at the end, because they're either going to be happy for a second or they're going to be upset and have resentment if they can't trust it, if they didn't know, if they get a surprise. Like, oh, what? I didn't even know that there was a callback for that job. So what we do is we feed the data in real time that all of the techs can see. Okay, there's a real-time leaderboard, and there's a real-time update of how much they've earned in that period through incentives based on their plan, based on the data flowing in. As soon as the job gets closed out, the amount changes in their app, right? So there's full visibility and transparency, and there's a drill down where they can see exactly, what jobs are factoring into this incentive amount. Right. So it's going to plug into your existing technology or existing software, whether it's Service Titan, House Call, Jobber, Job Nimbus, right? Restoration software, Service Titan. Here, I'm looking at the ones right now. Excel, Jobber, Service Bridge, Q360, Centerpoint Connect. So like all of those, right? So we're going to plug into that and get the data feeding into that in real time to automatically calculate it, which, by the way, It's going to also take any manual work off of your plate as well. You're not going to have to manually calculate, grab this, slice the data. We're going to do all that for you, and we kind of normalize it in real time. And then what you're going to see is a culture shift overnight. I promise you, when the focus goes from, oh, I need 50 hours this week to pay my bills. It's summer's coming up. I want to do a family vacation. I got to get my hours. It's like, this is how I actually get more money, is doing, the jobs a little bit faster, getting 5-star reviews on everyone, no callbacks, doing an upsell, tech generated leads. The culture completely shifts once the alignment shifts. Okay. And your team is going to trust the data. They're going to hustle. And I'm telling you, they hold each other accountable as well. Which is really, really cool. So in order to roll this out, one of the things that we found is the best way to do it, because you might be thinking, like, this is a big change. Like if I just do this to my guys, like, I don't know how it's going to be received. And I totally get that. Okay. So one of the things that we found works the best is what's called the shadow payroll method. So you run it in the background for 2 weeks. You tell people that you're thinking of it. You want their complete buy-in, right? You say, hey, we're going to move to this incentive pay. I'm not going to do it yet, but I'm going to set it up. I'm going to give you your login. I'm going to show you what you would have made, right, using this incentive pay versus your current hourly. And it's based on these metrics. So you let them see what they would have made on this before you go live with it, right? You want them to be like, can we please go live? Can we please go live? Right? Hey man, you made 1,200 this week, but if we were on this new plan, you actually would have made 1,550 for the same work because you had no callbacks. You did a great job. You finished the job, 30 minutes faster than the average, right? And we show them. So now it's this upside conversation. And I'll tell a story in a second. We actually had a guy do this for his plumbers at first, just the plumbing department and the roles there. And then he has the HVAC guys that are like, can we please get on that? Can we please get on that? Right? Like they want to be on that system. Right. And I think, like, again, competitors, A players, the guys that want to win. And we're seeing a lot of those as techs now. They want to be in a system that gives them that upside. And that's really, really cool. And you want them almost asking for it. Right. So we have a customer, Ron Williams. So he actually has 2 franchises. He has a 1-hour heating and air HVAC franchise and a plumbing franchise called Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, right? So he has 2 franchises. He owns it kind of under one roof. 2 plumbers were nervous, so they over communicated. And then now the HVAC guys are asking, hey, when can we get theirs? And one anecdote that Ron actually told me recently is that he had a plumber join his company that was at another company in town, specifically because of the incentive pay right here. A new installer signed on with Ron specifically because they had incentive pay. He wasn't getting it at his old job. He was stuck on this hourly pay. He had a ceiling. He's like, I can't, it's like the only way I can make more money is if I log more hours. I can't even get more than 40 hours, right? So the side effect is that performance pay is now a recruiting tool as well. And the A players, again, they're talking to each other around town. They're now recruiting for you of getting the best techs over to your company. And this is, a side feature that we've found happens when you launch this, right? And when people can see their upside. And then just the behavior change, right? The plumbers now go back to their own callbacks, right? To just fix it so that they don't get that deduction, or they'll spend a little bit more time doing it right. Whereas before they might have just wanted to like complete the job just to check the box, right? And this is where we're seeing, the average ticket was increasing. They're voluntarily fixing it. The trucks are restocked daily. No one asked them to, right? But since these things are factored into their pay, this is where you get that behavior change. Again, these things weren't happening before. Okay. So I think that's like super interesting piece of what's happening. And then I talked a little bit about Max earlier. So he's a 19-year-old tech from a company called Clogbusters, right? They do like drain cleaning. They're out of Idaho. They do pure performance pay, right? He's proof that when you show this generation sort of this clear path to increased earnings, they show up, they bring everyone up with them. He's no nonsense. Everyone levels up because he's not playing games, and his annual earnings for his paycheck, if you annualize it, they average around 180K. I mean, he's absolutely crushing, right? And he's still doing 40, 45 hours a week. but he's getting referrals. He's doing the jobs like super, super well, zero callbacks. He's increasing average ticket. Like he's just doing it right. And he's bringing everyone along with him. And this is, again, just like what we're seeing across the board. And these guys have $1 million techs on their team. So they're spending so much less time on payroll. The techs are increasing it. And one of the things that, Chris, their business operations manager, was telling us is the automated commissions, right? So kind of going back to the theme of the webinar today, it's like, hey, why most bonus plans fail. One, if it's not automated, if it's not in real time, one, the visibility, but it's also annoying, for whoever's calculating this. You don't want to have to calculate this manually. And then when that happens, there's no visibility. So we're going to automate all the calculations for all the different metrics that are getting fed from your data, right? Then you're going to integrate their spiffs. So they have a spiff for a 5-star review on top that we're automatically pulling from Google. We have like AI review detection. So we can see like, where do we think this review came from? If we can't match it perfectly, we'll allow a manual adjustment to match the review to the right job and the right tech, right? So it's like all of these things combined give you that real-time transparency. The techs trust the numbers. When they trust it and when they can see, they know exactly what they need to do. There's no disputes, no errors. If they hit it, that's what they get paid. So what Chris said is managing performance pay. It used to take a whole day, Monday and Tuesday, or whole day Monday and roll into Tuesday. Now it's less than an hour. I go through, I look at it, I click confirm, payout. Everyone gets notified, text message and everything. So we're seeing that as a huge win on like why bonus plans used to fail, and now with the automation and everything of how they're being successful with it. And then another one of our customers, Blackhawk, it's a 56 tech HVAC company out of Appleton, Wisconsin. They're able to improve average ticket size and reduce callbacks. It led to 1.16 in revenue in 6 months. So it's actually going to be over like 2.5 in additional revenue for this 20-year-old company that was pretty stable, right? So we're seeing just like massive improvements right there across the board. I have a question that I want everyone to put into the chat right now. So what I guess is a holdback that, what's a hesitation that you think why this potentially wouldn't work? What's an objection that you're like, I don't know, I have big projects. Like what is something that you feel is holding you back from doing this? Because I want to like chat about some of those things as well. So if you just put into the chat, I don't trust my data, or, I don't think my techs could get on board with this, or, I don't know how to calculate overtime if I have to factor in the incentives, what is something that you're just thinking in your head why this potentially wouldn't work? It's gotta be some stuff. Okay, so I'm looking at some of these guys. So Mark, hourly plus commissions, plus KPI bonuses, end of year bonuses, cost of the service, incentives, and bottom line. Okay, so this is perfect. So Ken said cost of the service versus incentives and bottom line. So one of the things that we do, I'm actually going to pull up an audit that we do for some people. So let me just share this. So a lot of times we'll do an audit, right? And we'll look at, we'll basically give you an audit. We'll say, hey, here's the annual lift that you're going to see from improving our data's jacked. Jamie, you and everyone else, everyone's like, oh, our data's not super clean. So what we'll do is we'll do an audit at first, okay? And we'll say, hey, if you hit these metrics and improve these metrics, here's the lift that you're going to see, right? From moving your average ticket and your labor time and all of that. You're going to see this lift, okay? Then you're going to pay out $32K. You're going to pay ShareWillow, like this example, $6K a year, right? Which is like $500 a month. So your net, so we always look at your net and we make sure that you're going to have, a crazy ROI, not just on the ShareWillow cost, but on the lift and the payouts as well. And we're going to say, hey, what's your payback period? You're going to get a net lift of 287K. That's after payouts. That's after your ShareWillow cost. Okay. So we make sure that it's always, always, always crazy ROI positive, and we'll pull in all the data. We'll give you your text, jobs closed, average ticket, and then we'll show you a proposed plan. Like this company, right? So like Jeffrey Dick, he was taking 50% longer on plumbing service jobs. His average hours per job was 4.68. The team average was 311, right? So he's taking longer on these jobs. And we'll show you what that looks like across your techs. And then we'll show you like average ticket, right? And then we'll say, hey, if we can move these 6 techs right here from their current average ticket to the target, right? You can see these guys are 7, 6, 5. We can move them to 900, which is already happening from the top techs. And here's how many jobs they're doing. Here's the gap. Here's the lift. So we show you the lift. We show you the ROI story, right? And we're going to do this by ingesting your data. We'll do an audit. We'll let our system sort of like process everything. Labor efficiency, right? So all of these techs, if you move them from their current average ticket to the target, and these are the laggard techs. These are the bottom techs. If we can just move these guys to this, the company sees a lift of 315K, right? Labor efficiency. So a bunch of these techs are, current taking this many hours, average should be 278. Here's another 100K lift if you just improve their efficiency, how long they're taking on the jobs. Callbacks, right? So that'll be an extra 100K. Callbacks, these techs are getting, 97, 96% first time fixes. If it's 98, here's what that looks like. So we always do an audit and an ROI story for you. And we say like, hey, is this going to be worth it? If it's not worth it, don't do it. If it's not worth it, keep paying hourly. You're not going to see the ROI. But what we do is we give you this audit right here and we show you sort of the story. And then we show you sort of the opportunity. Hey, your top techs are pulling significantly more revenue than the rest of the team. So we can do that for you and we'll give you this audit and we'll take your data in and we'll show you exactly what it looks like. So that should address the what Ken said in the chat, the cost of the service and incentives versus the bottom line. We have to show the ROI. Again, if it's not there, let's just not work together. Travis said, will they make less money on it than they are now? Super fair. Like that's why let's shadow it, right? Let's shadow it based on the plan that we put into place, that our system, our engine puts into place, and see what that looks like, right? Get them excited about it. Because I think again, you got to see, they're only going to get incentives if they hit their numbers, if they improve, right? So they should only make more as long as they're improving those metrics that you care about. And then they should make more, the company should make more, the customer should be happier. Okay, so that is a real concern, but that's why we say always shadow it and communicate with them, and we help you with that. We take a very hands-on approach. Mark said getting the data accurate, huge issue if we have to do it manually. 100%. The data has to be clean and accurate, and we help you with that. We have a lot of AI stuff that's normalizing the data so that we can feed it in. So we have these things called data sets that we feed into these metrics that we're creating the incentives. So that's the data has to be there. 100%. I agree with that. Jeff said, what KPIs will actually work? And this is why I think ShareWillow is the company to work with. So we have thousands of plans. When we create plans, we have basically an engine, an AI engine that looks at all of our plans, all of our customers, and we look at your cohort. So what are companies similar to yours, right? So Jeff, I don't know if you put in the chat earlier, okay, 8 Techs, Georgia, Service Bridge, Go High Level, KEC, right? So we'll look at a similar size company, similar industry, and we'll say this is the plan that we know works for a similar company as yours. And these are the metrics that we're seeing are helping to improve and that actually work, right? We're not just going to guess. It's not going to be us. It's a very data-driven decision. And we have this thing called Plan Architect that creates the plan based on a lot of this data, right? So that's how we create the plan and we recommend it. And we've done this so many times now that it's smart enough to know the KPIs that actually drive the results. So it's not just, hey, I think this KPI works. It's, hey, these KPIs are being used in similar companies and these companies are improving these metrics after going live. So it's it's proven to work, right? Jamie said our data's jacked. Retweet, yeah, we got to get the data clean. But the other thing that we found, by the way, is that once you're getting paid on this, it almost incentivizes to have clean data. You're like, I need to close this out properly. I need to update this properly because this feeds into my pay, right? So it kind of reinforces them to keep clean data. Or for instance, I had someone that were like, no one was clocking in on time, but once they realized that time tracking and when you clock in, clock out gets factored into the pay, it incentivizes them to like track the time tracking, or do the time tracking properly, right? So it kind of like reinforces data cleanliness, and data integrity, which is super interesting. If the technicians are not customer facing, how will they be able to increase their earnings if not in sales? So this is not all sales. So a lot of times people will also do checklists, right? So if you're not customer facing, even you might have a checklist of things to do. Did you do the truck roll? Did you do X, Y, Z? And if these things were done, then you get a score based on that, and that's your incentive piece as well. So it doesn't have to be on revenue. It doesn't have to be on how fast did you fix it or callbacks or anything. A lot of times it could be on, we have some companies that we're working with that have like a shop kind of checklist that they need to do. And then we even have CSR plans, right? CSRs can be based on, booking rate, or how many calls did you, do, or average time on call. Did you dispatch it to the correct technician, right? Like all of those things. So the KPIs are going to depend on the role, the department. Like installers are going to get something different than like repair techs, than different than project managers, right? There's going to be, excuse me, different plans based on the role, department, and all of that. So all of those things kind of get factored in. And again, that's why it's so important that like we create these like plans based on role, department, and that you have transparency, visibility, and that it's calculated with their pay on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis. So the techs can get an app. And the other thing that we do, by the way, that we've added recently, is we show them their effective hourly rate. So I think this is so important. So if they're getting a base hourly rate of, let's say, $20, and they're working 40 hours that week, right? That would be like $800. But if they got an extra $1,000, now they're getting $1,800 for those same 40 hours. So 18 divided by 40, we would show them their effective hourly rate is actually like $38 an hour. So instead of them thinking of themselves as this $20 an hour tech, we're saying, hey, your actually effective hourly rate is $38 an hour. And they can think of themselves as that $38 an hour. And what we found is that, I had a guy, the tech was, call it 20, 25 something, and he was about to leave for a $30 an hour job. He was going to leave. They were going to lose the tech, right? And he was one of their pretty good techs. But when they were able to show them, hey, you're not $25 an hour. You're actually $40 an hour. He didn't leave anymore, right? He stayed because he thought of himself as that hourly rate versus just the base hourly rate. So that's another thing that, we're doing, is we're giving them the visibility into their earnings and then showing that as this effective hourly rate when you factor in all the incentives. So that's been super, super helpful in getting, like, again, technician trust and the visibility and transparency into it all. I know I've been yapping a bunch. We are coming up on time. I can't believe it's been almost 40 minutes already. What other questions do you guys have? Because I do have an offer that I want to put into here for everyone. But before I do that, drop in any additional questions. I'll go through. I'll answer them one-on-one right now. If I don't see any, I'm going to go to this. So we're offering everyone on here. I kind of like gatekeep this offer. $500 off plan design, right? So if you book a call and you sign up, we'll take $500 off your plan design. Plan design is our setup fee for integrating, for creating all of your plans, for helping you with the rollout, for giving trading materials to the customers. And we work with you really white glove one-on-one. Honestly, some people will work with us even on the setup fee or the setup process for a few months. And like, we're there, we help, we answer super, super fast. But we're taking $500 off for everyone that comes to our webinars, which I'm super grateful that you guys all came today. So scan this QR code. You can book a demo, book an audit. I'll send you an audit. By the way, if you do an audit, this is what you'll get. I'll give you this output right here. You'll see the lift. I'll pull in your Service Fusion, whatever data you're using. I'll give you a shareable link that you can send around to your team. So it'll be a shareable link like this, and you'll see a complete audit of your business for free, If you want to work with us afterwards, that'd be awesome. If not, no worries. Like, but you'll potentially see the lift. If there's no lift, don't do it. But a lot of times, you'll at least get visibility because we ingest the data and we show you exactly what it looks like. So, um, Travis said, so are the things you incentivize set up by ShareWillow, or are they things service businesses come up with? So the things that we incentivize are based on, you don't have to manually come up with it. What we do is we'll create a plan based on what everyone else is doing, right? Based on a similar company to yours. And we'll say, this is the best plan for your business. Then you can go in, we can edit it, we can tweak it. We can say, hey, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. And we can kind of work. But V1 of the plan is going to be based on, it's going to be a data-driven decision based on similar companies, of what we're seeing, what we know works, of what the data knows works, not just we know works. And then that's how we create the plans, right? So it's not just ShareWillow like saying, oh, you should do this, you should do this. It's like, this is what works for a similar company to yours. And then again, we can edit it, tweak it from there. So that's how we're creating these plans. And now that we've been doing this for multiple years and hundreds of customers, thousands of different plans, because a lot of companies will have 4 or 5 different plans for different departments. Like, we have enough of this like proprietary data that we're seeing is working, that we can create the best plan for you. Better than any like random like human will do it. And the other benefit, by the way, that I think a lot of people, another thing that people like working with us on is because you can say to your team, like, hey, we've partnered with best in class company that's been doing this for multiple years, doing this for hundreds of companies. I'm not guessing it, right? As the business owner, you're not just guessing and doing this. You're working with a company that this is all they're focused on, so that we can create the best plan for your techs, for your business, for your employees, and ultimately get the best customer experience. Mark said, we're experiencing that the techs don't like the metrics that we're requesting: reviews, callback percentage, plan sales. Let's change it. So you can always change. We also have what's called plan intelligence. Well, we'll look at it, and if like they're not responding to these metrics, we adjust it, right? We adjust it. We send a notification out. We say, hey, this is the plan now. So if the techs don't like the metrics that you're using, let's get metrics, one that you care about. Like, you have to, it has to be a good needle moving metric for you. But it's like, if they don't respond well to those metrics, let's adjust it. And that's why we have plan intelligence that sits kind of on top and is monitoring this. But we can also manually adjust the metrics that are getting tracked so that it actually aligns with like what you care about, but also aligns with what the techs respond to, right? What they feel is fair, to get them kind of moving in the right direction. I think the biggest thing is, crawl, walk, run, right? So instead of having all these different metrics at first, like, just do something and get the mindset away from, I make money from more hours, right? Get the mindset at least aligned to this outcome focus, and then you can always add in additional things. So if they're not responding to something, like, that's fine. Let's change it for sure. And let's figure out, what makes the most sense for the business that the techs are going to respond to, that they feel excited about. And that's one of the big things that we want to do. I'm going to try to close it out because I like to keep these under 45 minutes. What other questions do you guys have? By the way, we have really good retention, 23 people still here. I think we had like 25, 26 to start. So keeping almost everyone all the way through is incredible. What additional questions do you guys have? I would love if you guys booked an audit. I would love to show you, what it could potentially look like for your business. But also at the end of the day, hopefully, I'm going to send this deck out and the video of it. Hopefully you got value from just like learning, hey, this is how I should be thinking about creating incentive plans, bonuses, for my guys. And hopefully there's a bunch of value there, I think. So any more questions, Hail Mary them into the chat right now. I have the meeting link there or the QR code right here. But yeah, take another like 30 seconds. If anyone has any additional questions, happy to answer. What data do you need for the audit? My data is not great. Any type of data dump, ideally we for the audit, we do an API call. So like whatever you're using, we'll just like API in, or if you just dump us some reports. So like we can do the audits based on any type of, we can take unstructured data. So like whatever data you have, that'll be a good like starting point, and then we can say, hey, this is what we're looking at. But Yeah, book an audit. We'll do an audit. If we can get the data, like there's no downside to doing it. I hope and I think that there's only like tremendous upside from seeing the audit, seeing the ROI analysis of like, hey, here's the potential lift, right, that we could get. Here's the incentive payouts if we get that lift. Here's the ShareWillow cost, and you'll see your ROI on it. Um, Thank you guys so much. I know Thursday it was noon Eastern time webinar, but I really am grateful for everyone here. We'll send a recap of this out to everyone. I'll send you the offer. And thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.